Hello and welcome to Tartan Touchdown episodes, weekly look back at the biggest stories from the weekend in the NFL. Divisional round of the playoffs is in the bag, so we're going to have a look back at the action from these games and a lot to look forward to the conference title games this week. Make sure you're following us on Instagram and TikTok, subscribe on YouTube and all podcast platforms to get a notification when our next podcast drops and all our latest content. With the Super Bowl only 2 weeks away, the Tartan Touchdown team are delighted to announce that we've been invited to host an event at Committee Rooms 9 in Glasgow on Super Bowl Sunday. So from 9 to 10 on Super Bowl Sunday, we'll be hosting an NFL-themed quiz ahead of the build-up to the big game. There'll be a special Super Bowl-themed menu on the night and the place will be packed for the game. If you don't have any plans yet, come on and join us and just get in contact with Committee Rooms 9 to book your table. A big thanks to Craig Grant, Laura Campbell and everyone at the Scotsman Group for reaching out to us and working on us with what will be a great event. For now though, let's get back to what has just happened in the NFL. Joining me on the show for the first time in a little while, someone else that had no stake in the playoffs this year, is Brian. How are you?
This is great because it's I do have no stake in the playoffs, so I just get to enjoy football. I don't need to sit and be overly invested in any particular team's performance. I just get to enjoy good games. I'm very well, mate, and yeah, it has. It's been a hot minute since I've been on, so I am delighted. As I say, the playoffs have been brilliant, so very much enjoying it.
It's good to enjoy the playoffs as a neutral, as long as one of the other teams in your division isn't playing, because then you're really not a neutral. But generally,
anyone but the Steelers, always, but still.
And as I alluded to last week, we have a special guest on with us tonight in proper Troy McClure style. You may know him from such things as an actual NFL advert. Collins and likely the world's most dedicated Texans fan. It's a Celtic Texan. Welcome back, Graham. How are you?
I'm doing okay, I suppose. I've had a bit of time to digest what happened yesterday. Unlike Brian, I did have a stake in the playoffs, but now I join you guys on the couch with no stake. So, yeah.
Excellent. And then, talking of stakes, there was a stake right through your heart, which we will come to in a little bit, so don't worry about that. So, however, we're going to start with Saturday night with the divisional games. On the other AFC matchup at Mayo, the Broncos hosting the Bills. In the first 2 quarters of the game, the teams traded a touchdown, a field goal, and then we had a crazy 4 minutes either side of half-time. The Broncos scored a touchdown to go 7 points up with less than 2 minutes and a half. Josh Allen then fumbled the ball on the Bills' next possession, leaving 2 seconds on the clock for Will Lutz to kick a field goal and give them a 28-10 half-time lead. However, for the Bills, they were quite fortunate because they were getting the kick-off to start the second half to try and get back into the game. Fortunately, they fumbled again, and it turned into a field goal for Denver. So it was 23-10, and we're just in the side of the second half, and it looks like the Broncos are fairly strong position. The teams would trade interceptions in the third quarter. However, the Bills then went on a run and got up 17 unanswered points to lead the game by 4 with 55 seconds left to go. Bo Nix would then connect with Marvin Mims on a beautiful play to restore the lead by 3. The Bills would then level the game up and take this to overtime. And after the Broncos punted, the Bills were driving for the win when Allen was picked off again. The Broncos would go on and win and kick the winning field goal to send them to the AFC title game. And a wee bit of breaking news. We've had this the last couple of weeks of breaking news. The Bills have decided to move on from Sean McDermott. So they are now one of our... At one point we had 10. We've now got 2 head coaches in position. So we're now with 8 teams needing a head coach this season. But was this Josh Allen's best chance to win a Super Bowl? And why has it all went wrong again?
Was it his best chance to win a Super Bowl? Yes. In short, are we likely going to see a universe in the next couple of years where you have got no Lamar, no Joe Burrow, no Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs at all? No, unlikely. Chiefs might go on a kind of mini rebuild and they miss again, maybe. But Ravens have got a solid roster. The Bengals have got a solid offense. And yeah, they're going to be thereabouts. So I do think it was one of the best years he's going to have to make it through there. What went wrong? I have been saying this all season. I have not shut up about it. I shall not shut up about it. And I'm going to keep talking and talking and talking about it. Get the man some wide receivers. Good grief. I'm expecting a phone call to go and play in Buffalo at this stage.
Yeah.
That is, honestly, you look at the receiver play generally that he has. Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in the game. It's not a debate. It's not an argument. He just is. And he has, ever since the Diggs trade, he has not had a number. He's not had a 1,000-yard wide receiver. He's done it since then. It's embarrassing. It's something the Bills have not addressed. And we've seen all the stuff all year with, Coleman being a healthy scratch, the discipline issues, all of the rest there. they've had opportunities to go and fix this and they just haven't. And this is what happens. So, yeah, was this the year that should it really have been at Buffalo fans, Bills Mafia? I kind of think it should have been, particularly when we look at what's happened with the other teams. We'll talk more about it later. There's so many things that would have fallen right if the Bills could have won out this game, but just didn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, they called up Nicole Hardman from the practice squad and Curtis Samuel. They got to get him back from injury after he come up for the practice squad. They get one catch each. So the two players that you're bringing in, I mean, Dalton Kincaid again led reception from, which it was just fine. We see a lot of teams where the tight end is the top receiver. We've seen it with Travis Kelce, we've seen it with George Kittle, we've seen it with Trey McBride. But the difference is those teams tend to have wide receivers round about the tight end. Brock Bowers another one where they have wide receivers round about to support. The Bills just don't have that. They literally have okay. I mean, Khalil Shakir's in the last few weeks seems to have come on a bit of a game, but that's it. There's nothing else. And they're going to be funny again. Are they going to get, with this draft not being a quarterback-friendly draft, all the top wide receivers are going to be gone by the time the Bills are on the clock.
But there's a huge world of difference though between, because you're right, you know what I mean, you do. We've seen it for, let's even go for the name, Travis Kelce. He's done it for years. He's been a number one receiving threat, and you must respect Travis Kelce. Well, you had to, past tense. Respect Travis Kelce. You need to respect McBride. You need to respect Bibbers. All the rest of it. Dawson Knox is not Brock Bibbers. They are not the same threat. They are not the same player. They've got different games. Yeah. Will there be any options draft? It's a great question because there's a lot of teams we need, and you're not going to see a lot of reaches for quarterback like we've seen in previous years, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out for the Bills, but obviously a new head coach can as well. Mm-hmm. We have to get them in the door very quickly with the draft coming up, and they kind of need to see where they're at, the agency and stuff like that coming up as well. So, Graham, for yourself, we continue to joke on this podcast and on previous podcasts about the Bills Super Bowl window. This year that window was as wide open as it possibly could be. Do you still see a position in the future where Josh Allen wins a Super Bowl in Buffalo?
You could have seen it more if there wasn't the imminent change there at head coach as well. You know, there's always going to be that new stamp and then that time to adjust to the new systems and everything. So I agree with Brian there. Like, the window they had this season with no Kansas City Chiefs to get past, there was no Ravens to get past. You know, I think the four teams that were left really fancied it because this is the best time there's been for what people might have said in the past. The also-rans had a chance, their best chance at going for it. You can tell by his reaction in the press conference after just how much he knew this was the opportunity for himself to make it to the dance. I think I totally agree. Lacking in wide receiver options, and I think a lot of people just gloss over the fact that, you know, Josh Allen takes games on his back and that. And I think sometimes there's so much pressure for him to do that. We see mistakes being made. Like you mentioned that fumble. That fumble was wild.
Yeah, the first one.
It actually looked as if he threw it backwards. It was so awful, you know. But that's a guy who's just trying his hardest to get his team to where it needs to be with no help.
Yeah, I think the thing is with Josh Allen, when you've seen him, like, he's not always, like you said, but he's not always had the receivers, but when he has his receivers on their game, they're catching balls. So you've got James Cook doing what he does, and you see Josh Allen relax and not have to carry the team on his own back. He's probably unstoppable, I would say. When he doesn't have to worry about carrying that team, he's unbelievable as a quarterback, and it's just like, the Bills, why do they not recognise? I don't know. There's obviously something where they don't recognise the need for a wide receiver in Buffalo, and they think they've got enough okay ones. And they try to do the Chiefs thing where we've got an elite quarterback and we get by with okay wide receivers. That happens twice in our lifetime. Once in New England and once in Kansas. I mean, it's just, hopefully when they get the new head coach in, you've got to imagine they'll go with an offensive-minded head coach that's going to come in. So surely they're going to come in and say, we need to get pieces round about Josh Allen, because everybody in their granny can see that it needs to happen. So hopefully, for Josh Allen's sake anyway, for Bills Mafia, that they can make that step forward in the next couple of years, because like you say, the window is closed in terms of everybody will be back to their best next year. Imagine the best next year. Yeah, that was that one shot that they had where they could have got there easily. Next year they're going to have to work even harder again for it. So anyway, let's move on. The Broncos, we found out post-game, unfortunately, that Bo Nix fractured his ankle. I think it was the second last play of the game. They kind of just tried to get in a position for the field goal to get the right angle for the on the right hash mark for Will Lutz to kick the field goal. He fractured ankle, he's done for the season, which we will discuss the implications of that as we go on throughout the show. But heartbreaking, Brian. He's been great. You've been on the Broncos bandwagon all year. He has been very good from the last 2 years, and you're like, you've got your team to the AFC title game, and you're now. It's like, to relate it to soccer, it's like the guy getting booked in the semi-final of a World Cup final and missing the final. That's kind of where we're at with this situation. It's heartbreak, isn't it?
It is devastating. Broncos country, it's just such a bitter pill to swallow. The offense has actually been looking good. My only concern with that team is that I've always been saying all year, they're putting up good results, but the eye test, they're passing that now. We're getting post-season Bo Nix, end of the season Bo Nix is looking like end of the season last year Bo Nix, who was fantastic, was capable of driving that team's offense every single week. And to go out at this point in the year, but hey, we get to see Jarrett Stidham.
We do.
Get to see Jarrett Stidham in a championship game. Who put money in the bookies for that? It is heartbreaking though, because you do need to ask yourself, does that kill what has been an incredible season for the Broncos?
Yeah, and it is such a freak injury as well. Like, it's not even as if it was a bad hit or twist of knee. It was just a pure bad bit of luck to happen on that play. You know what I mean? So, but we mentioned Jarrett Stidham. We'll come back to talk about him in a wee bit. But yeah, we'll cover that off with Bo Nix. Hopefully we see him back playing with the Broncos next year. Maybe as defending Super Bowl champions, who knows?
Maybe.
So the second game of Saturday night was a repeat of the Week 18 showdown in the NFC West, as the 49ers travelled to Seattle to try and get to the NFC title game. Unfortunately for the Niners, this game went pretty much the exact same way offensive as the previous matchup did. However, this time they did manage a second field goal and got 6 points on the board. However, the Seahawks did put their foot on the gas this time and let them up for 41 points. The complete dismantling from start to finish, and by start, I mean the start. Rashid Shaheed took the opening kickoff from 95 yards for the opening score, and from that minute onwards, the Seahawks just did not look back at all. 3 failed fourth down attempts and 3 turnovers were just a small part of the 49ers' inability to do anything with the ball all night long. Both field goals came in the second quarter. Brock Purdy outrushed CMC. Jake Tongas, their backup tight end, was a top receiver, and it was a very disappointing end to the season for the Niners. Brian, the Seahawks seem to be continuing to get better and better. What were your thoughts on this game?
Sam Darnold's a thing. Like, who's seen this coming? Like, what's the graphic that's been doing all the rounds of the 2018 quarterback draft class who had money on Sam Darnold being the first one to a Super Bowl? That's unexpected. Honestly, for me, yeah, the Seahawks have done what they've been doing all year. They're a very complete football team. They look good in every phase of every Shaheed kickoff return touchdown was just fantastic. He's just seen his gap open up and he was like, goodbye. Even with the attempted slide tackle for the kicker, which was quite something. Like, points are trying, mate. You gave it your college try. But yeah, they're a very complete football team. They are, for me, this was more the final death of the Niners rather than the Seahawks being incredible. The Seahawks were very good. They played a great game, and I don't want to take away from that. They've made it to the championship, all the rest. But this, for me, was we've been saying all year, how many weeks can Shanahan do it? How many weeks can he just cobble together the pieces of various parts of the Niners roster and put out a team that somehow still brings in wins? I thought they would do it again. I called the Niners to win this one because I was like, I don't understand how they're winning, but they're winning. So I'm not questioning it.
It was on the group chat where our picks were the 49ers somehow. I feel that somehow the 49ers were going to somehow get this result. I had no faith in it happening, but I was just like, in some universe, the 49ers go up there with a depleted squad and win this game. Graham, for yourself, obviously, 49ers, I mentioned, have been absolutely ravaged with injuries all year. It's something we've been seeing. It's a continuous thing with them, but they continue to put the performances in. What's your kind of outlook, Jake, for the 49ers next year? Do you think they'll be back in the playoffs again next year?
I actually can't see them being back next year. They're going to have people back, obviously, but I don't know if the longevity of the team will finally give in. There's been a lot of talk about how they get so hurt season after season. It seems to be like a recurring theme with the Niners that they're always banged up late in the season. And I think the division they're in, it's very difficult to come out of it. It was lucky that there were so many got out of that division this year.
Yeah.
I honestly can't see them coming back. I hope they do. I've actually got a stake in the Niners. I love their long snapper, John Weeks. I think he's one of the best long snappers the league's ever seen. So I would love them to get past. I was actually like heart rooting for them. Head was with the Seahawks because I thought they would have too much for them. That shoestring, like you say, cobbled together team, it was always going to be difficult there. That Seahawks team played too fast on defense. They're flying about. And after playing them ourselves this year, I've seen how good they were. When the Colts were still good, I thought it was actually going to be the Colts and the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. After playing the Seahawks, just seeing how good they were. They're not even like that amazing on the offensive side of the ball, but their defense is so solid, and they've got a decent wide receiving core to help out Darnold. He actually didn't have to do much in the air in this game, I didn't think. So, yeah, I can't see the Niners coming back.
No.
And sorry, Dan. An interesting bit with the Niners is I didn't appreciate this until I just double checked it there. They are the second oldest offense in the league.
Oh.
They average out at 29 and a bit, which, okay, yes, that's still young. If you're sitting listening in and you're sitting there sub 30, go you. But like talking about playing in the league, that is on the older side of it. So yeah, it is a question that you do need to ask. Are the Niners finally in do they enter full teardown mode?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm just looking at their free agents this year. They've got a lot of free agents come up, but probably not a lot that are going to massively impact on the team. Gross Matos to the edge is probably the biggest one. Joanne Jennings, Kendrick Bourne, Sky Moore again. The long snapper you mentioned there, John Weeks. Again, he'll not cost a lot of money to keep. Brian Robinson, can't see them keeping him. So a free agency, it doesn't look too bad in terms of who they're going to lose in free agency. We do know they've got a lot of their key players tied down on big deals. So interesting to see. If you're talking about the injuries for Niners, have you seen this conspiracy theory about the Niners and why they get all these injuries?
Yeah, the substation close to the training ground in it. And it eats away like the muscle material.
Yeah, it's right next door to Levi Stadium and the training field. There's an electrical substation, right? And the field is apparently the electrical magnetic fields degrade collagen, the weakened tendons that they cause soft tissue damage at levels that are safe. So it's a continuous exposure to it rather than the fact that it's just, and that's what they're saying.
But the exposure levels supposedly are through the roof that they're being exposed to. Honestly, sports science will go anywhere to explain an injuries and all that,
I prefer my theory that Christian McCaffrey for the entire year has been ciphering the life force out of his teammates to ensure he can be injury free. I feel that has just about the same amount of scientific credibility.
It's literally right across the road for the stadium and the practice field, so there might be something in it. Anyway, we'll move on we'll put our tinfoil hats off and we'll continue on with the podcast. Right, so we'll come back to the bit now where Graham, he's either been looking forward to talking to about us or absolutely dreading. We'll soon find out. Texans at the Patriots, Sunday night. Graham, first of all, take us through what your reflections are of the game of the Texans fan.
So some games when I'm watching them, I'll watch them and I get the chance to be very vocal on socials when I'm watching. And I can dip in and give comments as I'm going through the UK Twitter handle page. And last night's game was one of those games. And it was so frustrating watching CJ Stroud dissolve in front of my eyes,
What to use?
He's made of sherbet.
To watch him be as bad as he was, and you could, and seeing the reaction on social media as the game was unfolding, and people, and this is pundits that I've seen defend him to the hilt, or even calling for Money Mills at the half. I genuinely, I was one of them. There was a point just before the halftime when you could see that his head was gone. You could just see it in his face. And it's we have nothing to lose here by putting Mills in at this point.
Yeah.
He's going to have the second half of all second halves to shake off all that voodoo from the first one and actually get us in a position to be competitive. So it was really difficult to watch. And then when D'Amico come out and said that the locker room's got us back, I get it. But every fan invested and every person on that team is there to support a team that wants to win a Super Bowl. And sometimes you just have to sit the guy down, regardless of what he's done for you in the past, and be like, look, it ain't happening today. and just move on from that. And I think there was an opportunity missed to do that.
So we'll stick to CJ Stroud for a wee second. 4 interceptions last night, 5 fumbles last week. Let's just forget. We'll talk about the turnovers stuff that saying. His passing last night was horrendous. It was
awful.
Way off. It wasn't even close.
Way off.
I mean, he had eight interceptions the whole of the regular season. I think at the start 8 of the whole regular season.
Yeah.
What's happened in the last 2 weeks? Those fumbles last week were terrible. They just couldn't catch a snap. At one point, I remember last week, he watched after one of the fumbles. I think it was one of the ones he's maybe recovered actually, and he just sat and just with this confused and bemused look in his face, and it's just like it made it. I mean, I don't think he was supposed to start laughing. It was just one of those moments where you're like, his head's gone. What's happened in the last 2 weeks with CJ Stroud?
I honestly, if I could tell you, I would, but like the passing that he had in the game last night, it was absolute hospital balls he was throwing. He wasn't even close to receivers. Like Cade Stover's actually, I think, torn his ACL trying to get back on a pass that should have been into his body.
That was horrendous.
Awful. And then there was another one when he was open. Stover was open, and he threw it over his head. He was wide open, and he had all the time to throw it to him. He just wasn't on point all night. There was just something off. If I was liking it to soccer, it was like when old fat Ronaldo played in the World Cup final against France. There was something not right about him, but they went with him anyway. It was frustrating. It was a hard watch. And you know something? It really hurt to see the defense play as hard as they played. And the guy that beat them up the most wasn't May, it was Stroud. Stroud beat up his own defence last night.
This is great, Graham. I never point you an honorary Browns fan. Getting to watch defensive excellence and offensive ineptitude. Right, I'm going to be out of cat. I'm going to offer Stroud two excuses that I think we do need to bear in mind with his performance. The conditions were atrocious. The conditions for the game, it was, sideways snow. It wasn't brilliant. And Nico didn't start. He was without his top receiving option before the game started. And he is still a young quarterback. But with that all said, he's 4 picks deep. Not in the game, at the half. And you are still only 11 behind because of that defence.
Somehow.
You are only 11 behind. Well, as we know, there was only, for all the interceptions, for all the turnovers, New England only managed to pick up 6 points off intercept.
It was a pick six.
And it was a pick 6. So you're still in it. And this is where surely at this point, and it's the bit where, as you've alluded to, Graham, as many of the Texas faithful must have been calling for, you put Mills in, you say, we are 11 behind. Marks was looking decent in the ground. Chubb was looking good. Chubb lives. He's still got it. Put them back in. Trust them to do it. Give Mills... Mills isn't going to come in and rip the top off of a defence. We know that. That's okay. But he's getting enough of a passing threat to him that you're not going to have constant stacked boxes. So you're going to be able to trust the run game. Try and grind yourself back in. Yeah, it stings. As I say, it is something where, there you go, here's my Browns one in the postseason link, because it was like watching the Browns. What do? You're just watching an offense and you're thinking, what are you doing? It was a bizarre watch.
Well, I like Graham come back in a second on those points, Brian, but I'm going to counter it with something first as a neutral. That's right. So the conditions, yes, they were terrible, right? But surely you adjust and you can get I know I can't throw that ball in this way because of the weather, right? But then I've just looked at the stats here. The play calling's got to come into question. With the conditions, CJ Stroud threw the ball 47 times last night.
Yep.
47. They rushed the ball 18 times between their 2 top running backs for a total of 31 yards on the ground. So when those conditions are the way they are, you need to have your running game going better than they did. They threw the ball 27 times. And I know at point you're behind in the game, right? I get that. But still, that's a lot of passing in those conditions. So surely the play calling needs to come into question. I'll let you come back and answer Brian's points.
Yeah, I'll try and cover everything there. Yeah, he was without Nico. The conditions are the same for both. He lost Schultz early. He didn't have Trent Brown starting at right tackle. So there was some key elements there that weren't right. As for the run game, I don't think they could get Woody Marks going the way they wanted to early, because New England were very good at stacking the middle on defense, and they couldn't run it up the gut. Anytime we had success was when we bounced out wide until we brought in Chubb, who I think was far more productive on the ground. But he's a banger, you know. He's a bigger unit. He's harder to take down. Woody Marks is far better at eking out and being like a receiving back. And none of that was working. You know, we should have bounced outside more. And I get there is some elements that you can maybe say about Stroud, but that one pick that sticks with me, I think it was the one that went back for the pick six. Just take the sack. Just take the loss of yards. Don't just like hike it straight up in the air in a 5-man coverage. Like just take the hit. It's almost like he's having PTSD to back last season when he was like one of the most hit QBs in the league. He's never really shown that rookie year like explosiveness. It just hasn't been back. And you know, there was some drops as well. Don't get me wrong. The Patriots just executed the little things better more often yesterday. The defense ended up, I felt, gassed. And you might say that we'll have to chase the game and go to the air more, but it was 11 points at the half. There was a whole half to capture 11. You can stick with the run. You can just grind it out. Now, Slowick would have probably stuck with the run, but he would have gotten clever with it and moved it about a bit more. Cayley seemed to just let's hit the gut, and it just wasn't moving. We're just very fortunate in a lot of the games in that, I think it was the 10-game win streak there, that the defense bailed us out. And sometimes, well, last week it was 2 touchdowns for the offense and 2 touchdowns for the defense. You know, they were scoring on par. And when that scoring facility falls away, like we got the ball out, May fumble it 4 times or something, or 5 times. He fumbled it. Four fumbles. I think we fell on 2.
Yeah, correct.
I think Togiai punched it out, and then Will Anderson knocked one away. Shire come out with both balls. But any other week, we're on all 4. You know, there's these fine margins that happen, and you just feel so bad for those defensive guys because they couldn't put any more into it. And all credit to New England, like they didn't back off anyone. Booty had that amazing one-handed catch over the top of Derek Stingley. Nice. You know, like that's the kind of plays that kill you.
Yeah,
they tested Kamari Lassiter all night, and he held up pretty well, but they kept going to that well because they must have seen something in his play that he's susceptible to the big play at some point. So they kept trying. So it was tough. It was a tough watch. It was very tough.
I mean, as we mentioned throughout this chat, Brian, there was a lot of turnovers over this game. There was 8 in total, which is second highest of a divisional game. I think there was 9 and 1 many years ago. But three times those turnovers all happened on back-to-back plays as well. So one team gave the ball away, and then the other team gave away on the next drive. And this will be a joke for our middle-aged viewers and listeners. It was like an episode of the Chuckle Brothers, is what I'll say.
To me.
That's it, exactly. With the turnovers that happened, you mentioned it, Brian, the Patriots only took 6 points off those turnovers, which was on a pick six. So, in a way, they capitalised on a pick six. All the other balls that they got back, they didn't capitalise on it. When they go into this championship game next week, they're going to have to get better at doing that because, Graham, they'll have to get better at doing that, those errors against the championship game against Broncos next week, Graham, won't they?
Yeah, absolutely, because I think the way that the Broncos game's lined up for them now with what happened to Bo Nix, they're going to have, I think the game might end up going the same way, you know, because Stidham's not played a lot or at all since, 2023, we were saying?
His last pass was week 18 of 2023 season. Yeah,
so I'm not, and Stroud's a starter, plays every week, but he had a game like he's a guy who hasn't played in the league in 2 years. So what, and that Pat's pass rush can get home. They're very stout up the middle. And after this week, the backs are going to have their back up. You know, they're absolutely going to think they're all ball hawks, and they're going to fly around that field and cause a lot of carnage. If they can get those picks this time, I can see Vrabel had some strong words at halftime about how May was looking after that ball. Now, I'm sure that's going to be addressed. Knowing the way Vrabel is, that's going to be so much, that's going to be addressed quite quickly. I think in this next game, it could be almost exactly the same script, but with a slightly sharper Patriots offense.
Yeah, see, they're going to have to. We're not as Stidham, but that Broncos defense is elite. So when the Patriots have got on offense, whether it's on their own drives or whether it's takeaways, they're going to have to find a way through that Broncos defense, Brian.
The much maligned CJ Stroud, deservedly so, walked away with a stat line of 20 completions for 47, 212 yards, averaging it at 4.5 yards a chuck, 1 touchdown, 4 picks, edible passer rating at 28, a QBR of 21. The much lauded Drake May finished with lower yards. Touchdown to interception ratio is obviously incredibly better. He finished with 3 touchdowns and only 1 pick. He finished with a QBR of 20. He finished with a QBR worse than Stroud's. Now, yes, his passer rating was much better. A passer rating of 100. But this was not, and this is where Patriot fans out there, you may have your guy. See what I did there? You may looks good in the regular season. That was not a vintage offensive performance. Defense did wonders against one of, sorry Graham, the worst quarterback performances we've seen in the postseason in a long while. Do you know what I mean? I struggle to think of, I get to mention this game, I struggle to think of a worse offensive performance since the Browns beat the Steelers, and the Steelers were just woeful. But it is the thing where the Patriots were not world beaters. And this is where, yes, again, as I said at the start of the segment, conditions were grim, all the rest of it. But I'm sorry, you're going to Mile High. It's not that's known for its balmy temperatures and wonderful weather. So you could have more grim weather conditions. You're up against another top defensive unit. And yeah, okay, it's Stidham, but even then, Dobbins might be back. Dobbins could be back. There's chat of that. So they are going to... I think we are going to see the Broncos try to do what, for me, the Texans should have done. And they should have leaned on that ground game, pound the rock, ask Stidham to do dink and dunk. He can do dink and dunk. He can't do much more, but he can do dink and dunk. So it'll be interesting. The Pats, they go through, and credit to New England fans, you know what I mean? It's been a tough couple of years. I wouldn't be anointing anyone the chosen one quite yet.
Yeah. Okay, we'll come back to the championship game in a wee bit anyway to cover it in more detail. Let's move on and wrap up the divisional games. So we had the Rams travelling to Soldier from the Bears. This was literally a definition of an even game on the start line. Matt Stafford was 20 for 258. Bill Williams was 23 for 257. Both teams scored 2 touchdowns. However, one glaring difference, 3 interceptions for Caleb Williams. First one came on the opening drive on the LA 1 yard line, which the Rams took advantage of and marched all the way down the field to score the touchdown to open the game. The Bears did level it up in the second quarter. And Brian, me and you're going to debate this one in a minute, but we talked about this before we came on here. Brian Johnson's play calling, again, I'm still not convinced by fourth, you go for it in fourth down, you've run it, but you throw the ball in, incomplete the first one, and you run in second, third, and fourth down, and you don't get the first down. He then done that again later in the game where he ran it on first, second, and third and tried to throw it in fourth. He turned over on downs on both occasions. Now, Brian, I disagree with it on both occasions. You're maybe seeing the picture from that one in the second quarter a bit better.
Yeah, the first one I'm on board with. Like, I can give it. So it's one of these things. If you're an aggressive play caller and you win, you are a savant. You are an offensive genius and all the rest. If you're an aggressive play caller and you lose, you're an idiot and you need to be more conservative and you need to play the game more properly. For me, the one in the second, they've chucked up the incompletion. They've then busted 9 yards. Come on, you are 3rd and 1. I am on board with giving your offense a bit of trust and trying to go for that because the ground game was looking pretty decent for the Bears. The second one, though, I don't like we're going to try and run it on 4 consecutive downs. You know, you need to make the defense respect you a bit. And hey, as much as I have been very critical of Caleb all year, he has shown that you need to respect him both on the ground and through the air. He has the ability to do both. So yeah, for me, going run is, that particular one, that little series left something to be desired. But no, if you've just ripped a 9-yard run off and you're 3rd and 1 and then 4th and 1, I'm on board with you giving that a bath.
Yeah, okay, you're going to keep it in the ground, but you've got Caleb Williams, who is a mobile quarterback. You've ran it up the middle 3 times. Do something like have him take a QB runner and go outside, or get the guy to bounce outside. You've ran it up to straight right into the guard each time. I just don't I thought his play calling was questionable last week. This one maybe is not as questionable as it was last week, but I still think if you're going to run it, try and do something different, because you've recently just ran 3 identical plays and they've stuffed you on 2 of them. Yeah, anyway, we'll leave that. We'll agree to disagree in that one. So at half time, it is 10 each because we've traded field goals. And then the third quarter, kind of very similar last week with some of the games last week. Bit of a non-event in the third quarter. Both teams shared 5 points between them. Caleb Williams threw his second interception in the middle of all that. But into the fourth quarter, the Rams take the ball 91 yards to lead by 7 with under 9 minutes to play. We trade possessions again before we see the drive and we see the play that will forevermore be called the Williams, facing 4th and 4.
Way.
4th and 4 on the LA 14. 18 seconds to go. Caleb Williams is flushed out by the Rams D line. He's running backwards. He is on his own he's on the LA 40-yard line when he lets this ball go running backwards. And it goes into the corner of the end zone, over the DB, into the arms of Cole Kmet to tie up the game with the extra point. How did that play happen? It was incredible.
It was something to behold, to be fair. You know, when you see him flushed out the pocket, you think it's absolutely gone awry. Everyone's panic stations there, and he just finds this little glimmer and launches it. And you just know that America's game's going to have the best voiceover for that catch when they talk about this game in the future. But I don't know how he did it. He managed to lock his arm in and go, and I think the cover guy kind of had a word about it. I think he thought the play was done when he seen how far he was running back, and he just moved off him. And I don't know how Caleb even seen him. You know, when you're under that much duress, how you see the guy has got that yards of space, and he just dropped on him. Amazing.
It was unbelievable. Brian, you game touched on it. You were pleased with the DB player. You're kind of Captain Doom here. We'll go take the credit away for Caleb and blame the DB. Here, go on.
Do you know, I'm not going to take the credit away entirely for Caleb. It is an excellent pass. He has chucked it up and he has nailed his receiver. His receiver was wide open in the end zone. The DB has entirely given up on the play. It's not even close. It's like acres and acres of space that Cole Kmet has wound up in there. So for me, yeah, do you know in how has Caleb seen it? It's seconds to go. You are at the death of the game. It is this or nothing, which is fantastic. It adds to the drama. It's the reasons we love the game, for moments like this when you are like, oh my God, how could it possibly happen? A complete defensive collapse is how it can happen. Does it take away from the fact that Caleb has thrown a dime? He's thrown it, I believe it was crossbody. I'm now trying to remember it.
Yeah, it was.
I think it was, it's crossbody. It is from 40 yards out. It takes into pretty ropey conditions in Chicago. It takes none of that away. The DB leaving your target entirely alone, it is quite helpful. Yeah. I can't say I've ever played DB, but I'm fairly certain you're told not to do that by the coaching staff.
What I will say is, if you watch the video back, when Caleb lets the ball go, Cam Curl, not Cam Curl, whoever the DB was, is right beside Cole Kmet. It's not as if he's left him wide open and Caleb has seen him wide open and thrown the pass. They are right beside each other. What I think has happened is the DB has looked at it and thought, he's running backwards, he's launching this ball up, this ball is going to be underthrown, and he's anticipated, I'm going to step forward and get this. And he's just completely misjudged it. So I don't think he's gave up on the player or he's let Cole commit on. I think he's just underestimated the depth of the ball, and it's obviously paid the consequence. So, yeah, DB made a mistake, but I don't think it was a kind of, I'm giving up on it. I think he's just underestimated the depth on the ball. And he thought he was going to keep glory.
Listen, Dan, I know a guy at Specsavers that can sort him right out. Get that depth perception organised.
Anyway, the game then goes into overtime. The Bears D stands strong again. It holds them at the Rams punt. The Bears get a chance to win it. They're moving the ball well. And then came the much debatable play. This play has been debated all day today, where Caleb Williams throws a deep ball on the cross where DJ Moore should be. He's not there. Cam Curl picks it off. The debate has been all day is what happened, because the pocket was strong. It was a good release for Caleb Williams. DJ Moore just wasn't there. And watching Chase Daniel breaking it down, it looks like DJ Moore was supposed to run an out, and he just didn't. And that's where it would have been And he either had caught the ball or he had a good attempt at catching the ball, and he just wasn't where he should have been. Cam Cowell picks it off, and it sets the Rams up for the game-winning field goal. So, again, it was another heartbreaking moment for the Bears, Brian, because as much as we slag Grant on our group chat, I think we all did want the Bears to do well last night. But they're clearly, and I said this earlier in the season, that I feel like the Bears in a way of this year's Lions, where they're in this rebuild mode, and they've probably got where they get that wee bit earlier than what they were expecting. But they have got a bit of a bright future ahead of them, haven't they?
Well, Captain right, so Joe, like, very briefly on the DJ Moore play, if you've not seen it yet, because me and yourself, Dan, were talking about this before, I watched it, the first time I watched it, until you get the sideline shot, it actually looks like DJ Moore has seen more than Caleb. You see that sideline shot and you go, no, you just didn't go where you were meant to. In terms of the Bears' future, I now officially put Caleb in the CJ Stroud year one bucket, and that he has looked good, very good this year. And I need to admit it, as negative as I am about Caleb, show me it next year. Show me that Caleb and Ben Johnson can do it again getting into year two. Couple of tidies around. That roster doesn't need a lot of work. It's a strong roster. You show us that you can do it next year as well. Yeah, okay. I will eat my words and I will get on board with Team Chicago. My concern is that it could actually go a wee bit like the Lions have this year. Everybody had the Lions anointed as they were injury free this year. This was going to be it. We were going to see Amon-Ra devastate everybody in the north and blah, blah, blah. And they missed the playoffs. So that would be my worry, that we have now got a year of seeing what Caleb and Ben Johnson can do together, which is great. It's been great for us all to watch. That means all of the DCs out there now have a year of seeing what Ben Johnson and Caleb can do together. They have the tape now. They can build off it much more thoroughly, and they can more effectively game plan against them. It is exactly what I said about CJ Stroud after his year one. I was like, that's my worry going into year two. Now everyone knows what this player can do. So, is there reasons to be optimistic in Chicago? Yes, there are. You have got a good roster. You do have a young quarterback who it looks like he has young quarterback mistakes in him, but that's fine. He is a young QB. You have got an incredible head coach. As much as we might query some of the play calling from time to time, Ben Johnson's Ben Johnson. He's very good at what he does. But we'll see. Once the rest of the league adjusts to you, and you now have a much, much tougher schedule next season, let's see how you cope with that. There's going to be challenges ahead as much as there is cause for optimism.
Yeah. Well, Graham, for yourself, we mentioned the Bears there. The Packers are going to, the fans will come back a bit stronger. The Lions, we expect Dan Campbell to bring them back stronger. Vikings, we're not quite sure what we'll get from the Vikings next year. We're obviously expecting more from there. What's your thoughts on the Bears going into next year?
I think it's a great time for Bears fans. You know, there seems to be a bit of an ascension level that they went through this year. And that's great to see, being like the story franchise that they are, because they have kind of been a bit in the wilderness for a long time. And I've been impressed with, like Brian said, that they have a decent roster. You know, when you look across the board, that they have really good players across the board. They can now channel that behind Caleb Williams, and that gives a team belief. When you know you've got a guy under center who can, and he's shown them in that game, you know, he can make those big wild plays and he can move with his legs. You know, it breeds confidence through the rest of the team, and yet the mistakes will come with him being young, but they can be ironed out over time, and that will happen. He's been a far better quarterback than since, remember when CJ had that words in his ear after that game and said, "You'll be all right, kid."
It's ridiculous.
You know, so it's ever since then I've noticed that he's almost said, you know, something like, "You're not going to tell me. I know how good I am, and I'm going to show everyone." And he's been doing that. Can I say about the game? What was the catch that was getting debated about? Was it the Rams catch that was caught and deemed down?
So was this the one? Was this the one? Brad, they were comparing it to the Bills.
They were comparing it to the Bills. So you had the Davante Adams catch. He brings it down. For me, they're both catches. I can't believe we didn't talk about this earlier. For me, they should both be catches. Adams brings it in, and the difference in the judgment is that they were saying that he made a footballing move before he has then went to the ground and the ball's been ripped out. Okay. Whereas with Cooks and the Bills, they determined that he didn't make a footballing move. He completed the catch, but then the ball was ripped free. For me, they were both catches. They should both have been adjudged as down by contact, but title.
Yeah, as those nuances of the catch rule. Because see, for example, the Cooks one, if he'd been going out of bounds and he got his feet in, but he landed and then that ball popped out, it would have been incomplete. It was just pure coincidence that the DB rolled over him and took the ball with him.
Yeah.
I mean, so if that play had happened and the DB hadn't been there and that ball had popped out, it would have been incomplete all day long. I don't like the rule. I do think like he's got possession, he hits the ground, there's contact. That should be the end of the play.
Yep.
That for me, but that's by the rules. It was an interception, and they said Devontae Adams one. They're determined that he made a move to retain possession, a football move, which means when he was contacted, he is then down.
I just wanted to get your opinions on it because when I was looking at it, I was like, "There's no difference."
Exactly, Graham. It's the same thing.
Yeah, it's just as a nuance of it all. I don't like it, but unfortunately, as the way
Kansas City got away with it in the playoffs a year ago.
Kansas City got away with everything. Like, you can just come up with every scenario that ever happened. The NFL say, Kansas City got away with that because they did. But anyway, let's move on. We're speaking about the Broncos anyway. So let's move on to talk about the conference games. First up for us on Sunday night at 8 p.m. UK time. It's the Pats at the Broncos. As we discussed earlier on, Jet, it's the will start for the Broncos. You mentioned, Brian, that they're going to have to get the run game going, a bit of dink and dunk for Jarrett Stidham just to do what he needs to do. Without giving your pick away, because we're obviously going to release our picks later in the week. Brian, Graham, you're immune to this. You can talk about whatever you want. Where do you see this game being won and lost for either the Broncos or the Patriots, Brian, without telling us who's going to win?
This is great because it's such a trite answer in the trenches. It's a game that's going to be, this is not a game, we are not going to see either of these teams rip it up through the air. I just don't see it happen. This is going to be a question of who establishes the run game best and which QB, when they are throwing it, can keep things clean. If we get, for whatever reason, the Broncos, let's say they go behind a couple of scores early, they start asking Stidham to chuck it, the game's done. The game is gone because it's just going to result in more turnovers. It's just going to drag them further behind. Equally, exactly the same. If the Broncos can get, a couple of fumbles, a couple of strip sacks, something like that, I can see them just putting the foot down because I just do not see either of these quarterbacks showing us that it's going to be some electric, passing game. It's just not going to go that way.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about the Patriots last week. They did put the Chargers away where it was a poor performance by the Chargers until late. We've discussed in detail about the performance of CJ Stroud last night. They didn't put the Texans away until late either. So if they get in a position where they're keeping the Broncos in the game with Jarrett Stidham, they're going to find it harder to put the Broncos away than they are potentially the last two teams have faced, aren't they, Graham?
I think so. And Brian's right with the dink and dunk and getting the run game going. He just has to be absolutely bang average as a quarterback to win this game. You don't have to ask too much. That's all Herbert had to be, and it's all Stroud had to be, was bang average because you were going in there with solid defenses. And the Patriots having played the Texans defense now, they will be buoyed by the fact that people in the media have been saying that the Patriots haven't played any good, really, really good defenses this year. And then the best defense on a lot of the metrics that are measured comes in and they put them away. Now, I don't think that's so much to do with how they played, but I think the fact that because they were on the field so much, they were gassed. But if the Broncos can just be absolutely bang average in the passing game, but really good in the run game, their defense won't be gassed. They'll be turbocharged all game. So that's where they could win this, is by keeping their defense fresher.
Yeah. And what it sounds simple, but all the Broncos, we're acting as if we're all brilliant offensive-minded coaches here, but the Broncos just need to take through there what the Patriots give them.
Yeah.
If the Patriots are giving them 3 or 4 yards on passes, instead of just get his confidence up. One thing I did notice, and they mentioned this quite a lot last night with the Patriots, their safeties are playing so far up the field that they left so much space in behind. And the Texans just didn't take advantage of, well, CJ obviously had the confidence to make those passes, but they might not do that as much against the Broncos, but they were coming so close to the line of scrimmage and they were leaving the space in behind. If they do that, he just has to make an average pass. He doesn't have to go and throw a 70-yard bomb. If he can get a 15-yard pass to a Marvin Mims, who can then go and make a play after the catch, that can make a massive difference. So he doesn't have to go and make the spectacular plays himself. He's got the wide receivers there that can do it themselves. So it should be a good one to watch for yourself. Graham, do you think the Broncos can pull this off without Bo Nix?
I'm actually really torn on it. Before we come into this, I thought the Patriots were gonna have it, But we're speaking to you guys, I'm swinging back on the Broncos side, but I think, if the Broncos can keep the Patriots honest, they'll have it. You know, the Patriots' red zone defense has been pretty good in the last 2 games, so that's where it might count as well. You know, we had one chopped off for a penalty, and then we really couldn't do anything with it after that. So if they can keep them honest, I think the Broncos will be able to use home field advantage and make it to the Super Bowl. Yeah,
excellent. Next, we've got the tie break that needs to be broken this season. We've got the Rams at the Seahawks. They've both beat each other once this season in the divisionals. Again, Brian, without giving you a pick away, how do you expect this one to play out?
This one I find much harder. These are... they're 2 teams that if they're playing to the peak of their abilities... I really don't know. It's very, very difficult, this one, to judge. For me, this is one where I would go the other way. This is one where the difference makers are going to be at quarterback. Particularly, we've just had the news in of the Charbonnet ACL's gone, so he's out. So that eliminates a bit of the threat that the Seahawks had on the ground. But we are going to see... There's been a lot made this year. Stafford's in the MVP conversation, quite rightly. This is the type of game where you need him to show that. You need him to demonstrate why he's in that consideration. Because at the end of the day, you have got one of the top tier wide receiving weapons in the league. And you have Davante Adams as your wide receiver too. What a ridiculous statement to be able to make. So it's the thing for me, if the Rams on offense can get that passing game going, yes, that's going to be something to behold. But did we forget that the Seahawks have got JSN, the leading wide receiver of the year? So this, for me, 2 totally different games. One's going to be settled on the ground, another's going to be settled through the air for me. This is where the picks are going to be hard to make this week, and I genuinely am not sure what way I'm going to land on my decision, particularly with this game, because it's going to come down to, do we see the Renaissance man Sam Darnold do the type of stuff he's been doing this year, or do we start to see some of the Sam Darnold earlier in his career type of play? And what can Stafford do?
You've took the words right out of my mind. If Matt Stafford plays his worst game, he's still very good.
Yes.
Quarterback. If Sam Darnold plays his worst game, the Seahawks are gobbled. That's Matt Stafford can play badly and still the Rams can still win this game. If Sam Darnold plays badly, the Seahawks have no chance. For you, Graham, obviously all title games are tense. They are hard-fought games. With this one being a divisional matchup as well, does it add that little bit more spice to the game?
Oh, of course. It's full bragging rights, this one, isn't it? Absolute full bragging rights. You're absolutely right, both of you, on how this will pan out as more like an aerial threat game, this one.
Yeah.
Stafford is the guy you would put more faith in through the air, just because ever since he was in Detroit, he's been a slinger. You know, and we've watched him post massive yardage games and everything, and he just seems more poised in the pocket. Darnold might find himself like almost in a "how did I get here" moment. Will the pressure be too much? Against Seahawks, very good defense. Yeah, it's all about keeping everyone honest, and that defense is going to have to be put on watch by Matt Stafford. But he's the kind of guy, we've seen his toughness as well. He's not afraid to be hurt, get back up and go again. So I really feel that although they've both had a victory on each other this year, it's going to maybe be an experience game at quarterback that's going to end up being the key here. And Puka Nacua, what a security blanket.
Yeah. Just as you mentioned,
dude does it all. He even picks up blocks well.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Just as you mentioned, I'm going to go back, and what I meant to bring this play up, we talked about the Rams and the Bears game. See, when you've got the game on the line and you've got the Rams on third down, right? What do you not do? You do not blitz your corner who's covering Puka Nacua and leave him wide open to pick a 4-yard pass up to get the first down, which effectively killed the game for the Bears. Again, that comes back to decision making on the Bears sideline. That one just blew my mind. Where the best wide receiver on the park, and you blitz the corner that's covering him. But anyway, that's a debate for another day now. We've passed that, but I just thought I'd bring it up. It was a strange one. Right, guys, thanks. Oh, sorry, before we go, Graham, who's your pick for that game, Rams or Hawks?
I'm gonna say Rams, but I'm also can I add as well that I believe that the NFC is a much stronger candidate for the Super Bowl winners this year than the AFC.
It's not even close.
It's not even close, is it? Like, they're so much stronger this year. Normally, I tend to lean to the AFC, but this year it seems like the NFC have got far more like firepower across the board in their teams that are left compared to the AFC this year. So,
to be fair, the NFC West is a bigger competition for the Super Bowl than the AFC combined.
yeah,
that's before we even get talking about just these two teams. To be fair, guys, that brings us to the end of another great episode. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Graham. Thanks for joining us on the show. It was good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks, guys. That was great catching up. You know, things have been a bit hectic at home for me lately, and it's good to get on and talk when I can. So thanks for asking me on.
Hopefully, the guy continues to be well behaved, well slept in, a new Texans fan for Toronto to terrorise in the future.
Oh, I hope so.
Brian, it's a few big weeks coming up for us and some big episodes coming up. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Absolutely. It is the best time of the year where every game always matters, but there's every game mattering, there's every game mattering, and there's championship weekend mattering.
For everyone watching, listen, don't forget to join us at Committee Rooms 9 on Super Bowl Sunday for our quiz and the event they've got going on there. Make sure you're following us on Instagram and TikTok, and subscribe on YouTube and all podcast platforms to get a notification of when our next podcast drops. We'll be back next week to look at the Conference Championship games. Until then, we'll see you soon.